My name is Marie Alcock, and I am president of Learning Systems Associates, and I've been a teacher for 20 years, and I have been in the system as a middle school teacher and high school teacher. I've taught at year-round school in North Carolina, and I've taught graduate school online. And in that time, I've really enjoyed learning. When I first came into the system, I was immediately humbled because I was not really prepared to be a teacher in the classroom the way the job description has evolved. And so I had to go back to school and I had to learn, and I learned an awful lot about brain research and how we learn and what we know about how we learn. And so in that time, I was really humbled because what I thought I knew about learning had to be challenged. So one of the things that I've learned about is the impact of the development of the auditory system of the brain and the visual system of the brain, or the visual cortex. And my focus today is really to look at what's going on with that process and what's the impact on learning. So I guess the first piece to play with would be my mother. When she went to school, my mother had a very developed Broca's area of the brain. And what that means is that her sound system, she was fluent in all 44 sounds of the English language. And so when she was going to school, what she really needed was a visual curriculum. She needed to be shown the world. She needed to see letters. So letter of the week worked perfect for my mother. And when my mother was trying to learn how to read, all she needed to do was keep seeing those letters, and she needed to work through and read more, and the blood flow in Broca's area would have comprehension follow. And that's where we get that idea. And it worked. But when my son went to school, now my son, I'm a PhD, I read to him, I speak to him, I am absolutely trying to stimulate Broca's area. But the truth is, when the brain is developing and there's only so much mitochondria to go around, the visual cortex seems to develop as a dominant force over the auditory system. So when my son went to school, his Broca's area was not fully developed, and his visual cortex was amazing. Part of what we can this isn't just all about screen time. It's not just about video games and about being with televisions. It's also, think about the nursery. When my mother was a baby, her nursery was kind of like this color. It was muted, soft tones, soft pinks. When you look at nurseries today, primary colors, zebra stripes. And why do we do that? We do that because it's visually stimulating. Well, guess what? It's working. So the visual cortexes that we're seeing coming into schools today are, I don't even know the superpowers that these children will have. But the truth is, when we are now looking at high school students, high performing schools, we're learning that our high school students are only fluent in about 36 out of the 44 sounds in the English language. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means when the students aren't able to hear fluently, when they go to school, they don't need a visual curriculum like my mother did. My mother needed to be shown a picture of a penguin. My son, when he went to school, has seen thousands of penguins, most of them dancing. So when he went to school, instead of letter of the week, he really needs sound of the week. And by being overtly taught the sound system, he will be better prepared for learning how to read. When thinking about the brain and its development and the relationship between the auditory and the visual sections, I really appreciate my colleague Trish Martin, who taught me about the neuroplasticity and the relationship with sound systems. And she's a fantastic resource for developing a sound-based curriculum, especially for the early grades. And so when we're working through students who are coming into our system without a complete sound system, we start recommending that they go to speech therapy. We start putting them into special ed. When perhaps for many of them, having an intervention of overtly teaching the sound system would be a very helpful step. So as my son goes through the school system, knowing that I have to be deliberate about teaching him the sound system. It doesn't just happen naturally. So for my son to develop comprehension, just reading, just keep reading more, isn't actually going to work for him. I might try or consider overtly teaching him comprehension using the visual cortex. I might reduce the number of visual elements in the curriculum and focus on overtly teaching the sound system up until second grade, and then as an intervention there beyond.